My name is Gabby, and this is Yappy Hour. Cheers. Today is a very special day. As you may notice, we have a little bit of a different background today because I'm currently in the lovely state of Texas here with my good friend Hannah. So we've got a really fun episode for you guys today. Before we do get started, I do want to give just a little bit of a trigger warning. Some of the topics that we're going to cover today are a little bit heavier than my usual content. We're going to cover grief, loss of a parent, death, mental health, a lot of really heavy topics. Again, I just want to give a trigger warning because I know some people do struggle with those things. And if it's a hard or heavy topic for you, definitely don't listen if it's something that's going to be a little bit too much for you. But again, a conversation that I think is important to have, and there is no one better to have it with than somebody who is right in the midst of it. So this is my best friend, Hannah. We've been best friends for 8 years now. She currently lives here in Texas and I live in Florida. So it's a little bit long distance, but again, those are the best friendships, right? The ones that you just pick up right where you left off and it's like no time has passed at all. So I'm going to let Hannah kind of introduce herself and talk a little bit more about who she is, where she's from, kind of just a little backstory to get to know her, and then a little bit more about our friendship and how we met.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be on the pod today. Grew up in Kansas. That's where Gabs and I met. I have 3 brothers. They're amazing. Grew up in Topeka, so middle of the road, right? A little smaller than Kansas City, but not a super small city. Not nearly as small as where Gabby grew up. But we met actually in college. I was going to Kansas State, and she was living in Manhattan and working, and we were both working at a day school together. And I'd actually come back from studying abroad and back to my job, and Gabby had just started when I was gone. And she was, at first I was like, this girl's trying to be my best friend, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, I was like, work is work, school is school, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, but she wore me down, and here we are.
It's the classic coworkers turned lifelong friends.
Truly.
Like sometimes
really,
I do genuinely think you find your best friends at work. So
Absolutely.
don't knock it. If you have a coworker, make good friends. You never know what it'll turn into. Yeah, so that was summer 2017, correct? So the end of summer 2017, we worked together, met, became good friends all throughout that year. Mm-hmm. And then our friendship just kind of blossomed from there, I feel like, over the next few years of living in the same city. We both moved and again lived in Kansas City together, and just kind of continually we're on like the same life path, which I think is really cool. So we've been good friends throughout a lot of different life stages. Like obviously the college years of being single and partying and living alone, and then getting in relationships, moving, big girl jobs, right? All of these different things. Mm-hmm. And obviously we've been through some like heavier things as well. Hannah's mom passed from cancer, breast cancer, about a year and a half ago. But it was kind of an ongoing battle, which I'll let you talk a little bit more about your mom's journey and everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my mom was diagnosed the first time when I was a junior in college, December of 2018. Kind of crazy. I was in a sorority in college, and I was sitting in the dining room, and my mom called me. My mom and I were very close, like best friends. So it wasn't weird that she called me, but her tone was weird. And of course, in that moment, I had no idea. But Gabby and Mary and I were actually planning to leave for Nashville the next day. And I said something to my mom about that on the phone. It was almost like she was mad. And I was like, she knew about this trip. Like, it was so strange, right? But something in my gut in that moment. And then she was like, okay, Hannah, I have to go. And I hung up. And I was like, what the heck? Like, that was so strange. So not like my mom. Like very unlike my mom. But my gut was like, something is wrong. And then the next thing I know, she called me back. She said I heard the word cancer. And then people talk about how you feel like you're in a tunnel, right? And it's like the world is happening around you. It's not necessarily an out-of-body experience, but you
kind of like black out a little bit.
Yes. Like I was just like, I couldn't hear anything. Like I heard the word, and then I heard my mom, and then the next thing I know, I'm sobbing. And I have amazing friends sitting next to me, and they're like just holding me and being there for me. But it was by far like the most gut-wrenching, like holy crap moment. And I couldn't even process it. Childhood best friend's birthday, and I was like supposed to be celebrating her birthday that night, and I was like, I can't tell her. My mom just told me she has cancer. Because what the heck, it's her birthday. Like, it was just crazy.
And it's so crazy to look back and think like you were just a kid.
I was.
You know, like a junior in college is so young.
Yeah.
And to have to shoulder something that heavy when it's like, yeah, your friends are having their 21st birthday.
Yeah.
They're having their shot night. There's a sorority event. And it's like being on that level. I would imagine, obviously I can't speak for you, but I would imagine you would feel so displaced from that life suddenly where you're like,
I did,
holy crap, you know?
Yeah. I had almost disassociate from the fact that my mom has cancer, right? And at that point, we didn't know anything. We didn't know the prognosis. We just knew she had cancer. And it was like, and my grandma had cancer, and she was she passed away, but not from cancer.
Okay.
And my grandpa had cancer, passed away, right? But breast cancer didn't run in our family. It's also like, please check your boobs. Like,
Yeah.
people joke about it, right? We say it, but like actually, if we would have caught her cancer sooner, she might be alive today. You know,
Yeah.
maybe not. We don't know.
Yeah.
But it's so crucial. And if your body is telling you something, you feel in your gut something's happening,
Yeah.
and your doctor's like, no, you're fine, you're fine. Get a second opinion.
Yeah.
Like, I can't say that enough. Go to somebody else.
Was that something that happened with your mom?
Yeah, she was. I mean, yeah, basically said, like, she said something feels weird, right? And they did the mammogram, and PCP at the time was like, oh no, you're fine. Had the abnormal mammogram, but they didn't know why. So then she had the second one. I was home one weekend before we found out, and she had gotten a call, and she told me she had to go back in for her other another mammogram. And I was like, why? And I feel like God was protecting my heart and kind of preparing me for what was to come, because I had a feeling something was wrong, right? Why else would you be going in?
Yeah.
I know fluke things can happen. They can see things that aren't really there.
Yeah.
But something was stirring in my gut and my heart that was telling me something was wrong. And I didn't know, right? Hindsight again. And so they did go. But even if she would have gotten that mammogram sooner, or she would have,
a year earlier, 6 months earlier.
It was because the tumor was like 7 inches. It was huge.
Wow.
It was huge. So
That's scary.
So she knew something was wrong, and she tried to advocate for herself. Mm-hmm. And she worked in healthcare, right? So I think I talk about that all the time too. It's like it's so crucial, because she knew how to advocate for herself, and she did, right?
Yeah.
And she taught us kids how to do that.
Most people don't.
And it's scary. If we're trained to trust doctors and nurses, and I don't.
Yeah.
They're great, right? I'm so
but
thankful.
They're not infallible. They're not God.
No, they are humans. And if your body's telling you something, like, and especially as women, it's like we have to trust that.
Like, you truly are the only person who knows your body that way.
1,000%.
Like, you know when something's wrong. You know when something's not normal. Like, no matter how long they tell you, like, oh, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine.
Yeah.
They don't know your body.
They don't.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day. Crazy.
Absolutely.
Because I've had a couple friends, like, younger and younger, I feel like, having cancer scares. Like, more so, like, skin cancer. But there have been a few that have been, finding a lump in their boobs. Going through that whole process, biopsy, all that stuff.
Absolutely.
And it's just so scary how it is so common these days. Like, I feel like cancer used to be like something that was kind of like, I don't know. I just remember growing up, like, not really hearing people like, oh my gosh, like, he got cancer. Like, it was kind of a crazy thing.
Yeah.
And now it's like so normalized because it happens so much more often.
It really does. Especially breast cancer.
Yeah.
There was actually 2 women that my mom worked with at the time who also ended up being within a year diagnosed. And they're both, to my knowledge, still in remission, right? But they caught it very early. It was stages like 0 and 1.
Okay.
My mom was already stage 3.
3 when she found it.
And it was in her lymph nodes. So it's like it
was already so much worse.
Yeah.
But she did beat it. She was in remission.
So technically, I think there wasn't enough time she had the double mastectomy. She did chemo and radiation through 2019. So diagnosed 18. We did New Year's Day 2019. She had her surgery. There, unfortunately, a bunch of complications with that. A lot of infection. She was in and out of the hospital. Yeah. By 2020, going into 2020, I want to say she was quote unquote cancer free, but it's like, I think 3 or 5 years until you're actually like in remission.
Okay.
And then of course it came back in April of 23. So
she was close to
it
was like 4 years.
Yeah.
3 or 4 years.
And she died within a year of being re-diagnosed.
Yeah, I remember the second time around, it was like so much quicker. It felt like.
Yeah, because it was in her liver and it was spreading. At that point,
a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Was she continually doing checkups in between too? So it just kind of came out of nowhere?
So yeah, they were doing like her palliative care team followed her all throughout. And for people who may not know what palliative care is, it's comfort care, right? But it's not hospice. So they're keeping you comfortable, and different states hold different things. Like here in Texas now in my job, which we'll talk about a little bit later, it can be different. But for at least what it looked like for her was they were there to make sure her pain was managed and all the things while still in treatment, right? Once you do the hospice route, it's just all pain management. You're not doing any treatment.
Yeah.
But they were doing like checkups, but I know for a fact she had repeatedly asked for a scan. She wanted, because she was she thought something was wrong again.
Know.
And, then they finally did. And that's when we found out the second time. So,
okay. And then what was the date of her passing?
January 5th of 2024.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember that like very vividly because I had my son. I was a solo parent at the time. He was 6 or 7 months old.
Yeah.
And I remember when I don't remember if you texted or called us. But when you had told us that well, obviously we knew that things weren't looking great.
Yeah.
I know you kind of kept us very up to date about like things aren't looking great. Like now we're kind of, she could pass within the next month or two. And so it wasn't like surprising, obviously, when you told us that she had passed.
Right.
Because like we kind of knew it was coming, which is a blessing and a curse.
Yep.
Because
absolutely.
It's like, I'm sure you're glad that you kind of knew, like it wasn't out of nowhere that you lost your mom. It was like, you kind of had a little bit of time to prepare and spend that time with her. And
yes, definitely.
Because you were there taking care of her.
Yeah, for the majority. So thank God. I was working from home at the time and my job was flexible. They worked with me. So my brothers and I were kind of going back and forth, but for the majority of that last year, so again, diagnosed April of 2023, I was in the middle of the legislative session and through May. So I drove to Kansas in June. I was there all summer. I came to Florida to help with Gray for a little bit. That's July. And then I was back in Kansas and on and off, but for months at a time until the very end. And then I went back. For the most part, I was in Kansas from November up until her passing. Yeah.
And I came and I flew from Florida to go to the funeral and everything.
In the snowstorm.
It was like the craziest ice and snowstorm.
So crazy.
It was insane.
And my mom loved the snow. So she passed away and then it started snowing almost immediately after.
It was such a gut punch because as difficult as it is to lose a parent, obviously most of us go through that in our lifetime. Like,
sure.
Most of us outlive our parents.
Yeah.
So like something that we're all going to have to go through is losing a parent at some point. Or
absolutely.
both of our parents multiple times. Although it's not uncommon to lose a parent, I did feel like in your situation, it just felt a lot more of a gut punch just from my perspective, just because of like how close you and your mom were.
Yeah.
Like I don't know many people who have the relationship with their mom that you had, like you guys with your matching tattoos. Like she was your best friend, genuinely. Like I remember when we first started becoming friends, hanging out, like you would literally always just be like, oh, I'm just gonna call my mom, and you'd be like on the phone with your mom for like 30 minutes, an hour, like gossiping, talking to her, like telling her absolutely everything. Like you guys talked about, literally there was nothing that was off limits between you two, which was not like, I love my parents and I'm very close to my mom, but we don't have like that friendly of a relationship. It was very parent-child, where I felt like you and your mom were literally best friends.
Yeah.
So I can imagine like losing her, like the way that I'm gonna feel when I lose my parents is gonna be earth-shattering, but I think it's just so much more painful, one, to lose them so young. Like I said, like you were a young 20-something, you know, but also the special relationship connection you had with her, like
absolutely
being your best friend as well. It was almost like a double loss.
Yeah, it was definitely hard, right? It was because growing up, being the only girl, right, automatically a special relationship that we shared.
With you and your mom.
And my mom was the baby of 7, and I loved my grandma. She R.I.P. And my mom loved her. We took care of her as she was dying too. But my mom always made a point. She was my parent first, especially growing up, right? But then once I was, more of an adult and in my 20s and in college, it did become more of like a we're best friends vibe because my mom didn't have that. But that was because my grandma was doing the best she could. She had 7 kids. My mom was the baby. Like she was just doing what she could do.
Couldn't have that one-on-one special time all the time.
Exactly. But my mom really wanted to ensure with all of us. I can't speak for my brothers, but she really did her best, in my opinion, to make sure that we knew she was always there. And that's why the conversations were, right? It was appropriate. It was appropriate based on our age. But then again, to your point, when we were in our 20s, it was like, I told her everything. And because she wanted me to know no matter what, right?
Yeah,
like there
everything,
was
every detail about the boys, and the hookups and our crazy nights out, like things that I would not dare tell my parents. Like I'm like, if my mom found out some of the things that we were doing, but here's Hannah just on FaceTime with her mom, just being like, well, guess what we did last night, Mom? And her mom's just giggling away. Like I loved your mom. She was literally the best. Like she was just one of those people that like lit up any room that she was in. Like
truly.
Just like so kind and just like you could just tell she was such a happy, just kind, good person. Literally emanated from within. Like you can tell when you're in the presence of a person like that, because it genuinely is just like, energy is such a real thing. And she just had the best, good, happy, kind energy.
She really did.
Like truly the best ever.
And it's like even losing her so young, right? I was 27. She barely made it through my 27th birthday. I'm so grateful for those 27 years. Like she really truly made me who I am. Like,
I feel like you guys fit like a lot into those years. Yeah. Like you guys did so much together.
We really did. And being able to be with her, it was so hard. Like one of the most traumatic things I've ever experienced. Watching your parent go through that is terrible. To be a caregiver for a lot of it, I had help, right? Her sisters helped a lot. My brothers were amazing. They were there when they could be. And they were there a significant amount as well. Yeah. But watching somebody you love go through something that's so painful physically and emotionally, it's just, there's a layer of grief to that that's like unlike anything else, right?
You almost lose who she was before you even lose them.
Exactly.
Like you have to like already be grieving the loss of your mom, because it's like she's not your mom. She's not the same person. Like you're her caregiver. It's almost like the tables have turned in that way, where it's like you are taking care of her. Like she's not there, you know, for you to cry on her shoulder when you're upset about some silly boy or something. You know, it's just so different.
So different.
So that's so difficult too. Like I know, like even just like having estranged family members, like you have to grieve them while they're still alive, walking around on earth. And it's like, that is the most difficult thing.
Yep. It was there was a layer of grief to grieving the mom that I had before, right?
Yeah.
And then the mom that was still there, but not in the way that even she wanted to be, right? I mean, cancer is an ugly disease. Chemo, I'm grateful we have it, right? To serve the purpose it does, and it does save lives, but it's also, it kills you from the inside out.
Yeah.
Like from a different level. So it's
really
so hard.
Strips you of like your life.
It does. And the side effects she endured were horrendous. I mean, we spent many nights in the hospital. I slept on those terrible hospital chairs, and I wouldn't change it for anything. And I don't say that to be like, oh, look what I did. It's like, no, I'm
so real.
So grateful for that time. Like as hard as it is, that was such a special thing that I got to do, right? She spent the first 26 years of my life taking care of me. Yeah. And it's like for that last year.
And I also feel like it's glamorized a little bit, where people are like, oh, she fought cancer. Oh, she's fighting cancer. And it's like, you don't really hear the gory details of like, you're in the hospital, in and out. You're having all these side effects. You're having all these other like hair falling out, blisters, painful things, like terrible. So terrible, where it's like,
I mean, oncologists, again, I'm grateful we have them, but it's like their job is to keep you alive and do chemo, right? So it's the family's job and the patient's job to say, no, enough is enough, right? Because they will give you chemo until you say to stop, because that's their job.
Yeah.
And so it got to the point where my brothers and I had to really have a talk with my mom that was like, what is this? Your quality over quantity, you know?
Is it worth it? I lost my grandpa. I want to say I lost him to cancer, but really it wasn't the cancer that killed him. Back in 2023, I believe it was 2022, 2023, somewhere in there.
I remember.
He passed away because he had some form of cancer. I forget exactly what it was. But it was really the chemo that killed him. So he started chemo, and within like a month or two, his body just could not hold up against it. Like he did not have the strength in the health of his body to go through chemo. So he ended up passing from complications from the chemo, which was really sad because, you know, he chose to do chemo to fight the cancer, to kind of try to elongate his life and try to be here longer for his grandchildren. But it actually ended up shortening his life, which is really sad, because you think about the what if of like, what if he had decided not to do chemo? What if he had decided just to live with the cancer until he passed? Like, maybe we would have had him for another year instead of just those 2 months. So it's a really, really tricky like discussion to have. And obviously the patient chooses what they want to do and whatever is best. But like you said, like looking back, you know, vision is 2020 of like, wow, I really wish we would have had more time with him, you know, without doing chemo.
Yeah. And what the quality of life is on that chemo, right? Like if it's putting you in the hospital, or it's like my mom at one point, I will never forget, had blisters between her face. She couldn't even wash her head. Like, and my mom was a tough lady. Like, you know, I mean, pain tolerance of a horse, like truly like crazy. Yeah. And just sobbing, crying. Like, and I was like, what kind of quality of life? Like, this is not
even worth it.
No, it's not.
It's so hard. I can't even imagine having to be in the position to make those decisions.
Yeah. She was a warrior, but you're right. Like, I think it is romanticized to an extent, or glamorized, right? It's not to say people shouldn't do chemo, right? Again, I'm speaking just from the perspective I had with my mom, but it's ugly. The disease is ugly, and it sucks out everything. And similar to, again, we're going to talk about my job in a little bit, but I work at a dialysis clinic, and we talk about how dialysis isn't just for the patient. It's also the family. And same thing with cancer. It's like it involves everyone. It involves your family and your friends and your kids' friend. Like, y'all were on that journey with me. Like, you cried with me. You held me while I cried. Like,
it touches so many more people. Like, it's literally a tree. The tree branches. It is branching off of everyone it affects. Like, it really is. Even all of the love and support that I feel like really rallied behind your mom. Like, she had her journey, Janice's journey. Yeah. Kind of a group on Facebook that kept updates and you know, prayers and all this great stuff to kind of keep people, you know, up to date, and buying t-shirts to support your mom in her cancer care, which I thought was really, really cool to see from the community and stuff. I thought that was like so beautiful. But like you said, it does touch so many people. Like, that church was packed full for her funeral, you know?
In the middle of a snowstorm.
In the middle of a snowstorm, when people could not even drive to get there, you know?
It's really crazy.
Like, the roads were literally iced over, and that was still like a full church.
Yeah. It was amazing to see too. I talked about this in my eulogy, but my mom said, right, she was so good at finding sprinkles of Jesus and everything. She was so good at that.
Yeah.
And she told me so, like, countless times. She was like, Hannah, how cool is it that I get to hear these like messages? I get to read these messages. I get to talk to these people and hear about the impact I've made on their lives while I'm here. Because you don't, right? Like most people don't get to hear those things, or I would like to think when they're in heaven, right? They get to know. Earthside, you don't often get to hear those things from people. And she really looked at her cancer journey as like the messages and the encouragement and the love, just the support behind my family was indescribable. It was just amazing.
Yeah. And she deserved every single bit of it. Like she literally dedicated her life to take care of other people and help other people heal. In the medical field for how many years?
Like I think she was like 26 or something at Stormont when she got sick. Yeah. And she was working
26 years.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
She helped countless people in that, you know?
Yep. She was amazing.
And then you kind of almost followed suit a little bit, like wanting to work in some sort of healthcare position to be able to help people. So I'll let you talk a little bit more about your journey and your career and kind of what's fueled you in those passions as well.
So both my parents were in the medical field. And then my brother's in the medical field. Growing up, it wasn't like an unspoken, it wasn't like, oh, you have to be in the medical field. But it was like, that was what I was exposed to, right? Like conversations at our dinner table were gory and weird and like talking about like the latest thing that happened in the hospital, or my dad was a flight paramedic. Like my parents were not accountants. They didn't work 8 to 5, like, or a business, you know, like a normal, what you normally think of. Right. And I didn't see myself as being a nurse or a doctor or anything like that. I have a queasy stomach, but I knew I wanted to help people. And I did child welfare work for a while, growing up, decades worth of nannying experience. That's also what bonded us.
Yeah, like working with families
all the time. Yeah. And I knew I wanted to do something. And my mom actually said to me, I think I was about 16 years old. She's like, what about social work? And I was like, I don't even know what that is, right, at the time. And then my grandma got sick, went through chemo, did all the things. She was okay. The cancer didn't kill her. But when she was dying, she went to hospice house. And we met the social worker there, and it changed my perspective on a lot of things, right? I was like, somebody gets to sit with me and my family as we grieve and try to talk through this really difficult thing. Yeah. Like ending life, right? Or the end of life. How cool is that? Yeah. Right. How cool is it that person gets to kind of be the translator between the doctors and the nurses and all this medical stuff. Yeah. And the family, and they get to connect and support. And I just couldn't think of anything better. And I just felt like I was called to do that. Like really, truly. Didn't know in what capacity I wanted to be a social worker at the time, but that was something that I was like, okay, I like this. So I shadowed a hospital social worker at the ER in college. Didn't love that because you don't really get to connect with the patients in the ER, right? Shout out to social workers in the ER. We need them. They're like very helpful in getting resources and ensuring when people are discharged, like they have a place to go. They have a ride to wherever they're going. I wanted a deeper connection with my patients or clients or whatever, in whatever capacity I was in. So I went the child welfare route.
And your undergrad was social work?
Yes. Yeah. So I studied social work and trauma studies, conflict analysis and trauma studies as a minor. So I started on the child welfare track because I was like, I love kids, right? This will be great. I didn't want to do I'm going into homes to assess if a child needs to be removed because that was going to be too heavy for me personally.
That's difficult.
Definitely. So I was like, oh, adoption, right? This will be good. This will be happy they're getting adopted. I was so wrong because unfortunately when they're working through that adoption process, there's disruptions, there's sibling splits, there's all these really hard things that we have no control over. Yeah. And those kids have so much trauma. So much trauma to no fault of their own, right? But I personally,
the adoption industry as a whole, I have a really hard time with as well because it is such a for profit, and a lot of it is just so, I don't know, it just feels icky. Yeah. Like I know adoption can be such a beautiful thing, but there is kind of an element of human trafficking in so many words, you know?
It can be, absolutely.
Where a lot of adoptions are, these adoption agencies that are pressuring young mothers like, oh, you're a single mom, kind of giving them like, oh, we'll have your baby adopted. Like they're better off with a 2-parent family, when it's like, in reality, if we just supported those mothers, like I'm just such a huge advocate of like keeping mothers with their babies. Like, absolutely. The best place for a child is with their biological parents, truly. And like, I really think there's a lack of support for them when they're like, oh, well, we'll just adopt them off to somebody else. Like, adoption is a trauma for children. Like they have a really, really hard time. Like, you always have that primal wound of like, these aren't my biological parents. And again, it can be a blessing. Like there are genuinely children who are not wanted, do not have family. But a lot of the times I feel like there's a big lack of remediation between parents and children, helping it to be a better situation for that child.
Yeah, like what would it look like if we, and to your point, right? So sometimes it's because a parent is on drugs or using alcohol. They can't be a parent to that child, right? So it is safer for that child to be removed. But what would it look like if, say that a large majority is the parent is just doing the best they can and they don't have the resources and they feel like they don't have another option, which is so sad. So sad. What would it look like if we supported that parent? We kept the child in the home, because at the end of the day, it is right. Like, I don't know how many people understand that just because it's a baby or it's a young toddler, like Gray's age, right?
Yeah.
Trauma is still so prevalent.
Yeah.
They carry that forever. And even if
it shapes them,
it does. And even if you get them in the best therapies and all the things, right? Like I'm such an advocate for therapy. Even then, there's still this sense of abandonment. Why didn't my parent want me? And I can't speak to it from a personal, right? Because my biological parents were my parents growing up.
Yeah.
But I've seen it. I've worked with the kid. Like, it's terrible. And I'm not saying that people should always be left in their homes, because it's not always safe.
Yeah. Like adoption should truly, in my opinion, be a last resort. It should not be the first thing that we turn towards, because like you said, to your point, these like babies that are getting, left at fire stations, like their parents are in such a desperate spot where they're like, I cannot feed my child. Yes. I do not have a safe place to have a roof over our head. This child would be so much better taken care of, better fed, better protected if they were just with someone else. Yeah. So they leave them, whatever it is. I don't know what the laws are in different places, but you can kind of like, there's like baby boxes and stuff. And like voluntary. Yeah. But it's just so sad because it's such a temporary circumstance and these people have to make this permanent decision. This baby's going to get adopted by another family. And it's like, there's no takesies backsies, right? There's no going back. Like 5 years from now, you could be in a totally different spot financially. You could have a beautiful large home, make good money, and like be in a position where like you could provide and raise that child. Absolutely. But what's done is done. And I think that's what's really sad to me is like, it's such a temporary situation. And if that person did get support, if there was somebody who was able to, like these people who are willing to spend $50,000 to adopt a child when they think they're helping children, in reality, if they took that $50,000 and gave it to these parents who are in need, they could have saved 10 children who could have been better off and stayed with their biological. That's where I have a hard time. And I know that's like, oh, in a perfect world, like clearly that would never be able to really work, because it's like, would they use that money for good? Would they abuse it? Would they, like sometimes those people are in that position because of bad choices. But it is just like, it's something I really struggle with, like adoption in general, because I do see it firsthand. Like I have, like my sister's husband was adopted at a young age. And he has a lot of trauma surrounding that. Like it's been a very difficult journey for him. And he did find his biological parents. And I don't want to speak too much on his story because that's personal to him. But I just have had a lot of people connected and close to me that have experienced adoption, and I see the trauma that comes with it. Absolutely. I see how difficult it is, and I see like if only those parents had been supported. And I was even told several times, like when I was a solo parent, single and pregnant, having my son, like it wasn't a perfect situation. I was not extremely wealthy. I didn't have a 2-parent household for my child or crazy resources. Right. So many people told me like, oh, maybe you should put the baby up for adoption. Like maybe the baby would be better off. Babies need a 2-parent home. Babies need to have a father raise them. And it's crazy because I think a different person in my situation would have put the baby up for adoption. Absolutely. And look at me 2 years later from having my son, like happily engaged. He has a 2-parent home. We have a beautiful family and home, and he's so safe and loved and with his biological parent that I just could not imagine being in this position 2 years later when everything is perfect and thinking like, what if? Like I would be perfectly fine raising my child now, but here he is off adopted to another family. Exactly. Like what a crappy feeling. Because again, it was such a temporary circumstance of like, yes, I was single. He didn't have a 2-parent household. Yes, maybe I didn't have amazing resources, but like, again, that can change so quickly. So quickly. 6 months, a year later, 2 years later. And it's like, this is the rest of the lifetime of me and my child. And I'm so grateful that I had the courage and strength and I had just the rallying and support behind me that allowed me to make that choice, to be strong enough to say, no, I'm going to keep my child, even though it's not perfect circumstances, because I know that I'm capable and I know that he's loved and I know that it's the best case scenario for him to be with me. Absolutely. You did, right? You were like, I'm going to do the thing. And people that don't know you well know. If Gabby says she's going to do this, she does the thing. Let me tell you, she does the dang thing. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. She does it. But she conquers it, right? Like you knew the best thing for Gray was this. And then every single step of the way, Gabs, like it has been the coolest thing to see. You have done everything you needed to do to ensure Gray was taken care of. Yeah. Like
Mary was with you when you gave birth. I was there a few months later to help. I was there for like 10 days, right? You're like, I know I have people to help me.
Yeah.
And I'm going
to make it work.
I'm going to make it work because this is what I want to do. And not everyone has that privilege, right? There are, unfortunately, like teenagers or even young moms, like when same age you were, who don't have people, but you knew you did, and you didn't let people, quite frankly, bullies who don't know your life, who don't know all the support you have, get in your way of making that decision. And I'm just like forever in awe and so proud of you for that, because it would have been so easy. Or all the people online that were like, you should end your pregnancy. How dare you do what? Like,
it's so crazy.
What?
And that's what's wild to me too, is like the culture surrounding like people who say that they're so pro-choice, but then you choose to keep your baby, and suddenly it's like, why wouldn't you get an abortion?
Yeah.
You should have gotten an abortion. It'd be better off for that child if you would have gotten an abortion. Like, imagine that child growing up and knowing that his father didn't want him. You know, like those kind of little whispers that people DMing me, people saying these things to me online. For me, it never bothered me because I was just so confident in my choice, and I knew what I was doing was the correct choice. So again, it didn't bother me whatsoever. But I do think about these women who are, you know, in a more vulnerable position that are getting the same messages. They're getting the same comments. They're getting the same DMs. And to them, that may sway them. So that's why it's also been so important for me to talk about my journey online, to try and be a source of inspiration for women who are in the same position and show them, like, I did it. I'm no more special than you. Like, you are also strong enough. You are enough for your child. And I feel like I get DMs all the time of women being like, I'm so glad I found your account because I was considering getting an abortion because of this pressure, like outside pressure, people saying that that was the best thing to do for their child is to wait until you're in a good position to raise them. And it's like, there are no perfect situations, you know?
Yeah.
People who literally wait until marriage to have relations with their husband, have a child, that husband can just up and leave you. You can still be a single mom.
True.
Divorce rate is literally 50%. So it's just crazy for people to be like, oh, well, you're not in a 2-parent household. You're not married. You shouldn't have this baby. And it's like, that is not a promise. That is not a given. Like, no child is promised a 2-parent household. Death exists. Divorce exists. Deadbeat parents who just up and decide to leave exist. So it's like, it's a gamble any which way you do it. So for me, again, I'm like, there is no perfect situation.
No, there's really not. And part of the hardest thing that I saw too was the sibling split side of things. Ideally, right, if you're going through an adoption process, all the siblings get to stay together. But I had one case in particular that was just utterly gut-wrenching because it was a sibling set of 4. Only 2 of them were mine. The other sibling had already been adopted, and then it was the 2 siblings on my caseload still left. And for reasons I won't get into, the family couldn't keep both kids, couldn't support both kids, and that wasn't the family's fault, right? It's they were doing the best that they could, and they had to make a very tough decision. But there's just that additional layer of trauma, right? And for this family in particular, resources, unfortunately, to the parents wasn't going to help the situation. They needed to be removed from the home. Again, I don't know, like I feel like that's not, more often than not, that's not the case. The parent just needs resources. They just need help.
And what's crazy to me too is the fact that, like, I just can't imagine, even if I tomorrow became a raging alcoholic and was totally unfit to be a parent, I literally can think of, off the top of my head, 15 different people that would take my son and adopt him.
Me.
Exactly. Like, the amount of friends and family members. I know not everybody's blessed with a big family. Like, I'm not super close. Like, you know, I have siblings I don't even speak to. Like, I have extended family members I don't speak to. I'm by no means have the Brady Bunch family.
Yeah.
But there are just trusted friendships I've made and connections and family members. I don't know. Like, I just feel like there are so many people who, like, my son would never go into the system. He would never go into an adoption in that way.
Yeah.
And so it's just always so crazy to me that, like, there are these one-off situations where the parents genuinely are unfit. And I'm like, where's a grandparent? Where's a cousin? Where's an aunt? Where's an uncle? Where's a friend? Like, where's a godparent? Why is there nobody standing up for these children? And it makes me so sad. Like, how is that even possible?
And I think it's hard too, right? Because there's the cycle of abuse and the cycle of trauma. So again, I'm not shouting this as fact, but in my career experience, in my experience with all that I've gone through, more often than not, the parents that are ending up in situations where they're not fit to care for their child, it's because they didn't have the supports they needed to begin with. Right? Yeah. Or maybe they went through trauma, or there's kind of a taboo. It's kind of a taboo thing, kind of something that's stated as fact, which the research kind of goes against. It's like people that were abused their kids, right? Yeah. That's actually really not true if you look at the research. I mean, sometimes, right? Yeah. But that's not really, though.
People break the cycle.
People break the cycle all the time. Yeah. And research does show us that it's individuals who are abused don't abuse, right? But that doesn't mean that they're their trauma that they maybe went through was healed enough so that then when they had kids, that they were ready, they were fit to be.
It's like generational.
The state of mental health in this country is rough right now. It's been rough, right? But it's more prevalent now because we know and we're talking about it. I guess maybe I shouldn't say it's more prevalent. It's more well known because it's less of a taboo topic and we talk about it more.
Because I feel like you're like a very outspoken person about mental health. You've always advocated it. And I think part of that is because you were in social work and you were kind of in the midst of it. I feel like it's very intertwined with the work that you do.
Absolutely.
Obviously, seeing a lot of these people who suffer, some of it is mental health related as well.
It is, yeah.
And I feel like you've talked openly about how, like, you know, there's been times that you've had close friends or family members or yourself like struggle with mental health.
Yeah.
And it's something that is a little bit more foreign to me. And I love having these conversations because I like to see it from other people's perspective.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I never struggled with my mental health. Like I was never had anxiety. I just feel very blessed that was not something I ever had to deal with and struggle with. As I've gotten older, more and more like friends, acquaintances, like people that I do know have opened up to me about the struggles that they've had. So I do know it is a very prevalent thing, like probably more so than not.
Yeah.
And even like after having my son was the first time I ever really struggled. And I feel like it was almost like a little bit of like postpartum depression, possibly.
Absolutely.
I was never obviously medicated. It was never to the point where I got any diagnosis, but like you can see the signs, and it's something that you talk about at your postnatal, you know, appointments. And it was very short-lived, just a few months of like, it's difficult being a solo parent with a newborn, like not feeling like I had a super lot of support, like just the anxiety that comes with being a mother. Like you're so hyper vigilant, you're constantly anxious that something bad's gonna happen to your baby, you know. I was there waking up every single hour, checking his breath, checking his belly to make sure he was still breathing. Like it's just like I don't want to say normal, but it is just like with the influx of your hormones and everything that happens postpartum, like it is kind of a normal thing to go through that isn't talked about very often.
So I think it's you saying that reminds me, and I don't know if you remember because you were going through all the things, but I was so nervous about that for you because I did know, right? I'm not a mom, I'm not a parent. I've never given birth or been pregnant, but I know it's such a prevalent, and women, especially in your situation, Gabs, like you were a single mom. You have to be all the things for all the people. I was so nervous for you because not because I didn't think you could do it. I knew you were going to crush it, and you have. But from the mental, I know too much about that side of things from training, not from personal experience, that I was nervous about, especially because you've never struggled with it. And you were open though. And we talked about it, and you did talk about it at your postnatal appointments. But I think it's something that is so hard to understand unless you've been through it. And growing up in both sides of my family, depression and anxiety runs heavily, right? And so some of it's genetic. Other times it's situational. For me personally, I had a lot of situational anxiety. I've never been depressed, even through all the stuff with my mom. I've been fortunate enough not to deal with any like depression. It's always been anxiety for me, whereas I have other family members who have very severe depression. My mom even, and I don't feel uncomfortable sharing that because she was very open about it. She had a lot of depression. She dealt with a lot of it and was in and out of therapy and on and off medications for it. Like, and when it comes to that side of depression, there is a chemical imbalance, right? And I think it's so important for people to know that, because depression's not something you can just snap your fingers, just be happy, just think positive, do affirmations. All of those things are great. But there's quite literally a chemical imbalance. And people can't control that, right? It's like a genetic mutation in your brain. And so I think that side of it's so important to acknowledge. There's also, you know, seasonal depression. There's different layers to all of the different things. And
I do think your environment matters. Like it is one thing, like you can be very genetically predisposed to something like that, but I do think you can either help yourself or hurt yourself with who you surround yourself with,
100%.
The job you have. Because I know, like, even firsthand, when I was working a 9-to-5 office job, which was very, very short-lived, as you know, like literally lasted months there, because I was so depressed, like sitting in a cubicle every single day, feeling like I had no purpose in life, not seeing the sunlight, being in there from 10 a.m. until 7 p.m., like quite literally never being outside, not being around good friends, like having like really crappy people, being in a bad toxic relationship. Like there have been times when I felt like, wow, like, and this is somebody who's never even struggled with their mental health. So if I was somebody that was already predisposed to depression or already had some chemical imbalances or issues, you know, kind of genetically, being in that situation, I think I would have been literally suicidal. Like it is so scary to think, like even with my postnatal stuff, again, somebody who has never struggled with my mental health, even the lows that I hit during being a solo parent, postpartum and the newborn stage, and just you're struggling, you're on low sleep, right? Your hormones are fluctuating. I cannot imagine if I was somebody who already struggled with their mental health.
Yeah.
And had that layered on top. Like it can be something that is so, so scary, you know?
Absolutely.
And so again, it opened my eyes because I had never struggled up until that point. It opened my eyes of like, wow, some people really are living with this every single day. And that's why I personally am not against medication. Like I think that's an amazing tool that people should use.
Sure.
If that's what's going to help them. But I do think it's so situational as well. Like it's both. I don't think it's one or the other, because there are the people that are like, oh, just have a better mindset. And then there's the people that are like, nothing besides a pill is going to help you feel better. And I also don't think that that's true.
Right. And there's different seasons can require different interventions, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes talk therapy and medication together managed by a psychiatrist is great, right?
Yeah.
That's what people need. Or maybe it's just medication. We don't need to do talk therapy. I think it fluctuates. It's like anything else in life. You really have to just monitor. It's like one thing won't fix all the things. And then there's the side effects of medications, right?
Yeah.
Some of these medications can increase suicidal ideation and suicidal thoughts. And it's
like it's kind of a gamble. You've got to be careful.
You have to be so careful, and it has to be. That's why it's so critical that it's monitored by a mental health professional who knows what they're doing. Yeah, and you're honest about what's going on.
And sometimes I genuinely think medication is not the answer.
Right. Sometimes it's not. Yeah.
My fiance Nick talked on a previous episode about how he was going through a really tough time and a really low point in his life when he felt like he had no purpose. Yeah. He was living a soulless, godless life that was nothing but partying, drugs, like did not care about anyone but himself, was super selfish. Worked a crappy sales job that was super toxic, like had a really bad relationship, hated himself, like just felt like he had no purpose in life. Right. And at that point, he probably felt like he was depressed and his mental health was really bad. He was overweight. He just like, it was terrible. Right. Yeah. And like, if he had gone to his doctor in that moment, they probably would have prescribed him a pill. Sure. And maybe it would have made him feel happier, but really it's kind of almost a Band-Aid sometimes where it was like, his issues were not strictly mental. It was like a combination, the perfect storm of all of these toxic environments he was putting himself in. So when he quit that crappy job, lost the weight, started actually caring about his body, taking care of himself, going outside in the sunlight, working out, eating well, like he dug himself out of that hole, found a relationship with God as well, like really found purpose in his life, being a good person and doing good in the world. And he's never struggled with it since. Yeah. You know, so that's one of those things where it's like, is a pill always the answer? Like, obviously a great tool when you are in the process, like if you're feeling that low, to kind of even give you, I guess, the energy to dig yourself out of that hole. Yeah. But like I said, there are so many situational factors as well, which I wish a lot more mental health advocates did talk about. Yeah. Because they will say all day long, like go to therapy, go to a psychiatrist, get medicated, which again, amazing tools. But I do think there's a wider conversation about mental health that's almost taboo to have, because people are like, you don't want to sound like the person that is just like, oh, well, you know, just quit that job and go travel Europe and you'll feel better, you know, because that's obviously not a long-term solution either. Yeah, I think it's critical to get to the root cause of what's the issue, right? So for me, I went through some difficult things. This is when I really first started having anxiety. It was we lost my grandma. Someone very close to me had a suicide attempt. I had lost someone very close to me to suicide. And I felt so out of control. Like not in a I'm going and partying and doing drugs and all, but internally there was so much internal turmoil. And I mean, Gabs, you know better than most people, I am so happy. Like I'm such a happy human. I'm blessed that is just my state of being majority of the time. But when you're that person all the time, it's like, okay, so now if Hannah's upset or Hannah's mad, and this is something I've had to work through, right? It's, well, what's wrong with it? It's so loud because I'm not like that all right. Yeah. And like you don't always have to feel like you have to be on. Yeah. And so for me, I was going through these, and my mom actually, I mean, she always has been an advocate, right? Especially dealing with her own mental health. I think it would be good if you went to therapy, right? So I did do the talk therapy thing. And for a while, personally, and this is something I'll advocate for forever. You feel that talk therapy is for you. You go to someone, unfortunately, not everyone is great. You really, truly, and it's so difficult. And I'm saying that from someone who's done it, right? Finding the right person for you is so critical, because to be honest, I'm in the field, right? Like I'm not serving as a therapist at this time, but like I've done the educate, right? Like I do want to do that at some point in my career. I was harmed by my first therapist, not harmed physically, but it was like, I felt like from a psychological standpoint, that person did a lot of harm to me. And I was like, I am not going back. Right. And I was so vulnerable and so on. And
at the time I did not feel that I was heard or understood and I was a kid, right? And I'm not blaming that person, but I'm just saying that it's so critical that you do find someone you feel comfortable and can connect with. At the same time, I was being put on anxiety medication because I was having panic attacks. I was not functioning well and I needed that medication intervention. I've been off anxiety medication for probably 5 or 6 years now.
Okay.
Even after all the things with my mom, I did do a little bit of therapy when my mom was going through the things, just talk therapy. I haven't been medicated.
Yeah.
And for me, that's worked, right? Like I needed it at the time. And then it got to the point where I was like, I don't want to be on this anymore. I don't think I need it because it was so much of it was situational.
Yeah.
I moved away from the place that had held a lot of trauma for me. And that alone, it was like, wow, it's crazy how much your environment.
It makes a difference.
It truly
really
does. Because even when I go back home now, I love going home. Kansas is always going to be home.
But it makes you feel a little anxious.
But I have some of that like, ooh, because there was a lot of really hard things that I went through as a child and a young adult. Losing family members, we lost someone every single year I was in high school.
Yeah.
Like,
your high school years were crazy. And we kind of have a weird connection because my step cousin, I guess, was a friend of yours, which we years and years before we even met. I remember my step cousin passed away. It was really unfortunate when he was a couple years older than me, I think. When that happened, I was at the funeral. I remember that was kind of a scarred thing in my head because I didn't go to many funerals when I was like a teen or a kid. And so when that happened, I remember like really remembering that. And then obviously years later, once we became friends, we kind of found the connection that he was somebody who had dated a good friend of yours. Yeah. And so you were there also through him passing. And you knew a lot more of the details because obviously me hearing it from my uncle, like through the grapevine of my family, we didn't get any of the, nitty gritty details of what really went on and what happened with his death. Obviously you being close to somebody who dated him, like you knew a lot more about what had happened. Yeah. And was a good friend of mine as well. Right. Like, and that was one instance. But again, like I said, I had lost a friend to suicide and you guys had some murders.
We did. There was just so much. And in those times, it's like, even if you're not really close to that person, the person that passed away or, died tragically, there's a layer
that
of like
you.
Yes, because we were so young. Right. And then stuff with my family and I lost an uncle to suicide. And there was just a lot that happened that I didn't as a kid understand how that did impact me.
Yeah. You can't process that as a kid. No.
Even as someone who's always been so outspoken about those things, like I fully believe power is taken away when you talk about the thing. And that's not right for everyone. Right. But for me, for example, again, talking about my mom and processing things in that way and like journaling and that's just how I take care of me and my mental health. And
do you feel like that's how you really grieved the passing of your mom? Like, what do you think the best, or I mean, obviously you can't give anybody advice on how to grieve. It's different for everybody, but I am curious from your perspective going through something like that. Like if you were to go back and tell a younger version of you a couple of years ago, like how to support you through that time, like what would you have said? I
think it's always been, and again, you know this very well because how long we've been friends, but I'm someone who's I'm the person that's there for everyone else. Not to say people, like I was so supportive, right? You, Mary, all my like best friends, everyone, even friends of like in college, all the things. Not to say that I was not supported well because I was, but I still do. I have a very hard time accepting that. Max, my boyfriend, amazing, right? Like huge support for anyone that may be going through something, especially if you're someone who is like me and it's like, I'm always the one to give or to care. It's harder for me to accept that, even though it was readily available. Like, I don't want it to sound like I didn't have support because I was truly. You have to lean on those people. Well, I should say I had to lean on those people, right? I wouldn't have made it through that without doing that and knowing it was so like if somebody wants to bring you a meal or somebody wants to pray for you, accepting that as help, which is so hard for me to do, was so critical in grieving through that because it allowed me to be there and be present with my mom when she was here. Yeah. And then post her passing, it was really relying heavily on those people and like you and Mary and my roommate, Jackie and Kelsey and Kaylee, like all these people and Max that want to show up for you, just let them, right? You have to let them.
I think we're very similar in that way where we're both like almost like the strong archetype of a woman where we both have a hard time, I think, accepting help and like being kind of the mushy gushy and, being seen as not emotional, but just like, sometimes it just feels like weakness, you know? Where
absolutely.
It's like you're burying yourself, you're opening yourself up to that. And it's like, it can be hard. So
And
I definitely
scary.
resonate with that. It's scary.
It's so scary, right? Because letting someone in means, oh, I'm being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like I have to do this thing. And that's really hard. And we're, I would say, both very hyper independent women.
Yeah.
Like
you don't want to have to feel like you have to rely on somebody
Exactly.
to be okay. And it's like,
Exactly.
sometimes you do, and that's okay. You know, it's a season, it's a moment. It doesn't have to be for forever. Like,
right.
Doesn't mean you're less strong or you're less of an independent person.
Yeah.
Just because you do open up and accept that help when you're going through something like that.
Exactly. And I would say, honestly, it makes you stronger.
Yeah.
Being able to accept that help. And like that makes you a strong human, that you're solidified in your independence and you know you can do it. But hey, like I'm going to let someone else help me because in this season, in this moment, I need that. Right.
Yeah.
And that's been a huge transition in my life.
And so with your current job that you have right now here in Texas, you work with
dialysis patients.
Mm-hmm. So does that have any element of mental health in it as well?
Absolutely. So I am a licensed master level social worker. So I'm not doing therapy with my patients. It's a lot of supportive counseling between them and their family members. So for those that might not know, dialysis is a life-saving treatment for individuals who have little to no kidney function. So you either are on dialysis or you get a kidney transplant. And if the kidney transplant works, then that's great. And you don't have to be on dialysis while it's working.
Yeah.
Or if there's no intervention, you will pass away from it because your kidneys
Is it people
function.
who are like alcoholics?
No, not necessarily. So there's a lot of different ways, right? You can get on dialysis. Majority of the time, in my experience, it's been individuals who have high blood pressure for many, many years, right? It's not treated. When your blood pressure is that high, it starts to impact your organs, right? So the kidneys start to lose function. Diabetes is another one. Uncontrolled diabetes, not being able to keep your sugars in check and all the things, again, takes a hit. Your organs, your pancreas take a hit. There is also acute kidney injury. So for example, a patient might be sick and for instance, I had a patient who was AKI, which means acute kidney injury. So had their gallbladder removed, and in the process of that, their kidney just stopped working. Their kidneys stopped working. Okay. So was on dialysis for about 2 months, and kidney function was regained, and they were fine, and they're no longer. So they'll be
it's not always permanent.
It's not always permanent. So if they're end-stage renal disease, ESRD, it is, right? Unless, miracles have happened.
I don't know why I thought it was alcoholics. That's their liver, not the kidney.
Correct. Yeah. So I think, abusing or misusing drugs and alcohol can absolutely impact your organs. But for the most part, in my experience with my patients, it's been the things. Yeah. It is, they're either on dialysis forever or they get a kidney transplant and they're able to be off of dialysis. So, but my role really is that supportive counseling. So if it's a new patient, I'm helping them process and understand what dialysis looks like. I provide education on transplant. I discuss if they're interested in transplant, if there's any resources they're needing. We talk a lot about just coping skills and things. The thing with having a chronic disease, right? And I'm speaking from my professional career, and also I have narcolepsy. Yeah. So for those that don't know, it's my sleep and wake cycles are messed up. So my brain I'm never fully rested. I've never known what it's like to be rested.
Yeah.
So speaking from a personal standpoint, having a chronic disease like that in an invisible disease there's an extra layer of toll on your mental health, right? Because people can't see that I have narcolepsy. It's like people don't know that I have narcolepsy. It's invisible and it is hard to handle. It is debilitating, right? And so with dialysis, it's kind of similar but way different in the sense that it's when you have a chronic disease, more often than not, you're gonna have seasons, if not constant, depression, anxiety, concerns because you're on diet, right? It's a life-saving treatment, but it comes with its own complications and it's very hard on your body. Comorbidities often, like I said, there's some patients have cancer, they have diabetes, they have all these other things that really impact their quality of life. Yeah. And so a lot of my job is kind of helping navigate and help them understand is this the best thing for me, right? We talk a lot about end of life care, and that's something that is easy for me to do from the standpoint of I'm not uncomfortable discussing death. Yeah. I don't.
Which that's kind of a blessing in disguise.
Absolutely.
You kind of are the perfect person for that position since you've gone through that with your mom. And
absolutely.
You've walked this already, the palliative care and all of that stuff, making those hard decisions of is it even worth it,
Yeah. And it's quality over quantity, right? So with a lot of, especially my older patients, we talk a lot about, I'm if it gets to the point where your quality of life is, you have no quality of life or it's a very poor quality of life, we can discuss what that would look like if we transitioned off of dialysis, right?
Yeah.
Or
Which
what
I can
comfort
imagine
care
that's
would
such
look
a
like.
difficult conversation to have with patients
Absolutely.
and their families.
Absolutely. Especially the families, right? Because again, as someone who's gone through it, that was such a difficult conversation. And it's from an ethical side of my job, right? I don't share personal information with my patients. Like that's something that we don't do unless it's going to absolutely support the patient. But I use my experience and my knowledge and my things to help support and provide that education. And I do have a very unique perspective on it because I did go through it, not only with my mom, but with my grandma. Hospice care is an amazing, like, God bless the hospice care workers really, truly, because it is, I mean, they're with these people as they're ending, the days are ending, right?
They
and
come face to face with death like
every day.
Every single day.
And it's a beautiful thing to be able to support someone through that, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's hard. Don't get me wrong. I've had very difficult days because of, I mean, my mom just died a year ago, right? And I think it'll forever be hard, but
feels fresh.
It does. There's some times when I've been like, whew, like this is too close to home right now.
Yeah.
Like I've had a lot of patients who have gone the hospice route, and there's a layer, it's a weird dynamic, right? You're happy for them because you know that they're going to be, those that are choosing it are so miserable.
Yeah.
And their quality of life
more
is
comfortable
so
in the
poor.
end.
Yeah, but then maybe they'll and we don't know, right? It depends on if they have any kidney function or not, how long, amongst other things, how long they'll like live without being on dialysis. But it's, even if it's a week or it's a few days of relief of not, like, it's a lot of pain. Yeah.
Being able to pass peacefully.
Absolutely.
There's like a lot of beauty in that too, I think.
Absolutely.
Like, it's bittersweet, but it's like you do find those little glimmers of like, at least they're comfortable. At least they're not in pain. At least,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's been now a year and a half since you lost your mom. So obviously you've gone through every season throughout at least one full year and some of having all of those moments without your mom. What times did you think were like the most difficult to get through, like in your grieving process?
Yeah. So I think, right, it's, at least my perception of the thing was, it'll be really hard on birthdays and anniversaries and the date of her death and all of these, Mother's Day, all these like big important life events. But honestly, it's been in the mundane. It's been on the Tuesdays and the Saturday mornings and the drive homes from work, right? When I would just want to call her.
Yeah.
I think there is going to be, we've talked about this, like a layer of grief over everything now. Engagements, wedding dress shopping, my brother's dancing with my mom at their wedding, right? None of those things are going to happen, having babies. And those are so bittersweet now. It's like, I'm so excited and so grateful that we're going to get to all share those moments. And I know she's here, right? Like, I know she's with us, and I know she sees us. And my brother and I talk a lot about how it's really cool now. She gets 365 view, right? She gets to see all the things at all the times. Like, that's what we believe.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm so grateful she's no longer in pain, but it is so hard.
Yeah. Because she never even got the chance to be a grandma, right? Because your niece was born after she had passed, right?
Yeah. So she knew about my niece. She was born a couple months after she died, but she kept saying, she's like, I just want to meet this grandbaby, right? Like, that was her. And thinking about, having my own babies, like, God willing. And it's going to be really hard, I think, because I always envisioned my mom being there.
She would have been such a good grandma too.
Yeah, she would have been.
I know. I think about that even like when I went through, obviously being a solo parent, like giving birth, and when I had my baby, like, I almost grieve those moments for you. Like, I really think about it a lot because, like, when I gave birth to my son and I was there 4 a.m. in the hospital, my baby's sleeping, in the bassinet next to me.
Yeah.
The only person I wanted to call was my mom. Like, she was the first person I called. And I, like, cannot imagine the grief that, again, the happiest moment of my life when I gave birth to my son. Like, I can imagine when you do have kids and you do get married and you do get engaged and have all of these important big events happen, there is just that, like, tinge of, like, it's so bittersweet. Like, I wish she was here. I wish she could be part of it,
Yeah, absolutely. I think and those are the things I can't prepare myself for, right? Like, I'm genuinely nervous. Like, I'm going to do what I can to set myself up, right? And again, relying on my faith so heavily will help get me through those times. I know, and the people, you and Mary and my brothers and Max and all my best friends. Like, it's just, all that support's going to help, but you can't prepare, especially in those, I think a lot about giving birth and how I think it might be difficult, right? I mean, it's difficult anyways. I've never done it, but it seems like and there's just a lot of the hormone changes and all the things. And it's definitely going to be
it brings a lot more to the surface than you think.
Absolutely. And and I can't prepare for that, right? I can do my best. I can prepare my heart and mind, and
you won't know how you'll feel until you're really in it.
Yeah.
I like what you said about how like your faith kind of carrying you through. That's one thing that I think about a lot with grief journeys too, where I just truly cannot fathom going through something like that and not having faith to lean on. Because even, it pales in comparison to things that I've gone through, but still like my own trials and tribulations of being a single and pregnant, being a solo mom, and all of those things that I went through in those moments when I was at my lowest of my low and I was really having a hard time getting through things, it really truly was my faith and leaning on God and like knowing that there was a bigger plan, right? And like knowing that I'm sure for you and your mom, like knowing that someday you will see her again, right?
Yeah. I think that's so true, right? Because when she was sick the first time, or even in things that we've gone through, everyone goes through, right? The traumas you go through in your life. For me, it's always been, my faith has been my saving grace, because the people that are there to support me on this side of heaven, right? That's been so critical and so helpful. But also that the knowing God is in carrying me through those things is something that no human being on this earth can give, right?
Like nobody can give you that level of peace.
No. Yeah. And I think losing my mom was my biggest fear. And she got sick the first time, and it was like, okay, it felt like we were going to beat it. And then we knew it was likely going to come back, right? But we didn't know when. So there was always this fear. Like that was just, it's going to come back. And I know she was fearful of that too. And it did, of course.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think like you lived through your biggest fear. Like there's almost peace in that, knowing that like the worst thing that could possibly happen did happen.
It happened, right? And I don't want to die. Like I want to live a long life, right? I want to see my siblings have babies, and I want to have babies and grow old and all these things. But there is something to be said about the peace that I have in my heart now, knowing because of my beliefs and my faith that I'll see my mom again, right? Yeah. Again, I don't want to die, but there's less of a fear in that and what that'll look like, because I truly believe that I'll see her again. And that's such
almost like at peace with it,
Absolutely.
Like, and that's why it's so crazy to me. I don't understand how people can get through the hard things that they've gone through, and like, not to compare anything, but I've been through difficult things being single and pregnant, my solo, my journey.
Absolutely.
With those things, like truly there were moments when I had no one to turn to but God. Like truly my faith in him, my faith in the fact that he had a bigger plan and that it was for the greater good, and I was going through it for a reason, and he was giving me the strength to get through it. Yeah. Like I just don't understand how people can go through a big loss or grieve or really get through tough things without having that level of faith, because it does bring you so much peace that no other person can give you, no matter how much support and love you have. Like I truly think that God is one of the only people that can like truly heal your heart in that way.
Absolutely. And give you that peace, right? That no human being can give you that. In the way that I look back and I'm like, oh, he was preparing me, right? Like all these moments where you feel prepared for the thing. So with you and your pregnancy, it was like, it wasn't, you knew you wanted to be a mom, right? As long as I've known you, like that's just always been like your goal, right? Yeah. Which is so beautiful. And also,
obviously it didn't happen in the way that I wanted it to.
Exactly.
But I truly do believe like God's plan is always greater. And when you're in the moment, obviously you can't see it, but it is crazy looking back, like where I am today with my lovely fiance, love of my life, my son, who I would not trade for the world, who I love so much, him and his soul and who he is.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this the other day. Like there is not another single situation that could have unfolded where I would have been able to have the son that I have and to be with the man that I'm with.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, like any other situation, I would have been either one with the father of my child. There's only one other human being that I could have had him with to have him. Like I genuinely believe that he is made half of me and half of his biological father. His soul and who he is so unique. Like any child that I had with my fiance, who I would want to be with, would not have been my son, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So it's just crazy the way that events unfolded to be able to give me my son and then to also give me the man that I was meant to be with. Like truly is God's plan. And I feel like you probably see that in your own relationship too, of like the timing of when you met your future fiance, your boyfriend currently.
Absolutely. So as you know, like I didn't always know if I wanted to get married and have kids. I didn't know if that was in the cards for me. And I was okay with that, right? I was at peace. I was like, if I'm meant to be, God will show me that. And so when I met Max in September of 22, January of 23, and
felt this tug in my heart to like invite him, whatever, which was so scary because also I'm inviting this guy into this vacation. So fast forward, we call him Dre, and it's amazing. It's a beautiful experience. It's crazy. Like everyone loves him. And then my mom got re-diagnosed and Caitlin. Truly that timing and God preparing my heart and Max's heart, like all these things, but also letting you have that time with her before she is sick again. Exactly. Because then April comes, we all like flew back to Kansas and Max came too, right? So it's it was just crazy. Can you imagine if he would have flown back to Kansas with me, or he would have, like, my mom gets terminally ill again. That's the first time he's meeting her.
Yeah, that would have been terrible.
Terrible. And I just think it's so crazy, right? Because my mom had I was the only single sibling, and I had been for years.
Yeah.
And my mom had so much peace. She told me to go back scientist. Like, so much peace knowing that I had him.
So, like, she met him too before she passed and everything.
Yeah, and knew him so well. And right, there were so many beautiful moments in all of the tragedy and trauma that we went through, because we got to spend so much time together as a family, including Max and my sister-in-laws and my brothers. Like, there was so much beauty in all of that pain. And I genuinely, it's like, I couldn't have.
Bittersweet.
So bittersweet.
But what a blessing that you even had him when you were going to, like, God knew you were about to go through that tough grief journey. And, like, spend the hard months with your mom and then go through losing. Like, he was there at the funeral. He was there.
Yeah.
Every single month past year and a half when they were going through the difficult things. And he said, "When I feel like you've really been able to lean on," which is like such a blessing.
I can't imagine, right? And we got thrown into the pearls of it. It was such a testament to our relationship. And Max is a man, and as my partner, and like my life.
Some people would have been like shied away from that. And they would have ran, that would have been an excuse for them to just jump ship. And I feel like it brought you guys closer.
100%. And it would have been so valid, right? For him to be like, this is too much. We have been dating for like 6 months-ish, right?
Yeah.
And he just continually showed up for me. And that was so heavy for him too, right? And we've talked about how, like, he also had to grieve, like my mom. And it was just, and still is, right? There's so much. And I can only imagine being the partner to someone who's losing their loved one, especially at such a young age.
Like, you don't know what to do. You don't know what the right things to say. Like, nobody gives you a crash course on that.
No, like he has been through so much too. All of my brothers, significant others have too, right? Like, there's so much within that. And it just truly showed me, and I fully believe that was God's way of showing me, like, this is the man that he has for you.
Yeah. And I am so grateful that I feel like you have been surrounded by, like, the best group of people. Like,
absolutely.
God knew, again, like the quote that I love, God doesn't prepare the path for you. He prepares you for the path.
Absolutely.
And obviously God knowing that you were going to walk down the path of losing your mother at a young age. One, I think that's why he gave you such a close relationship with your mom and really healed you both through that, of like being able to have a friendship and all the memories of being the short, 27 years that you spent with her.
Absolutely.
But I also think that's why he gave you such an amazing bond with your siblings. Like, you could have been an only child. Imagine going through that without having them surrounding you. And the memories and what you have left of your mom is kind of lived through those family members. And
absolutely.
Also giving you the great support system of your friends and the relationship as well, of like having Max there by you. Like,
absolutely.
Truly, like, it can only be God,
Only God. Absolutely. And I feel that every day. And it's like, there's no words to even describe it. It's incredible.
Well, I love it. I love you. I'm so grateful to have walked through this journey with you as well, because I feel like everything I know about grief, like, a lot of it I've learned from you.
Yeah.
Because I haven't had anybody else who's lost somebody that close to them. And just seeing you firsthand, the way that you just handled it with so much, like, grace. And, even though it's not always easy to carry, like, you make it look like it is. And I am so grateful, like, one, for you feeling comfortable enough to come on here and share this level of vulnerability about your journey and everything that you've been through. I think it's so powerful for other people to hear, people who are maybe going through something similar, or it's something that we're all going to have to walk through eventually. Like I said, the path of losing a parent, grieving, whoever it may be, some loved ones, like, nothing is promised, and every single day, like, it's a possibility to lose somebody that you love. So again, like, I just really admire the way that you've handled it all with such grace and poise, and I really respect and love, and I'm so grateful that I have your friendship.
By God, sister, truly, like, you have been a pivotal person through this journey with me every single step of the way, from the first time to the second time to the death, to everything you would think. Abs, like, could not have done it without you. Really, truly. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you for coming on today.
I'm
sure this won't be the last time that we see you on the podcast. Lots of fun episodes to come.
Yes.
But I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. It was, I know, a little bit heavier than our normal topics that we talk about. But again, I think an important conversation, one that I love to have and just kind of see a different perspective. But okay, well, happy yapping.